Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Lincoln to Local. I'm Krista Carroll, and today we will be hearing from State Representative Anthony Moore with a legislative update and information about a bill that has deep ties to Farm Bureau. Joining me today is State Representative Anthony Moore, representing parts of Clinton and the western side of the state. So before we get started, can you kind of give us information about your background and where you come from and kind of what your roles look like over at the state capitol as a representative?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So I was born and raised in Clinton, as you said. My family's been in western Oklahoma since before statehood. My family and I own our family farm that we've owned for almost 100 years. We're right at like 93 years now. So farming and ranching has been a big part of my history and upbringing. Right now I represent House District 57, which is Custer County, Roger Mills County, and the west half of Beckham County, so far west central Oklahoma to the Texas border. As far as my roles at the Capitol, I'm the chairman of Higher Ed and Career Tech. I've also served in the past on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Right now I serve on Civil Judiciary and then Judiciary Appropriations and Budget and the full Appropriations and Budget. I also was placed on administrative rules so they could have an extra lawyer. My background is I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for 15 years, primarily focused in energy and real property. So I deal with issues that touch our Farm Bureau members all the time, dealing with things on the land and minerals under the ground. So I've really enjoyed being active in those roles at the Capitol.
It's already been a really busy few months of legislative session, and we just recently passed another deadline. So can you give us an update into some highlights that have happened so far that kind of affect our rural members and our agricultural sector that Farm Bureau represents?
Sure. So obviously we've had several different things we've been focused on. One of the things that I'm probably most excited about was a bonding bill for medical marijuana. Senator Darcy Yeck and I worked on that bill last year. This year we actually got it signed by the governor and completed. One of the things I really like about it is there was a lot of input from some Farm Bureau members about putting up a bond when you've owned land for generations. And so we changed it to anyone who's owned land for more than 5 years wouldn't have to put up that bond, but it also allows some protections because we all know that some of those industries, they come in and they leave things in shambles and it's kind of a mess. And the bonding would create a minimum of $50,000 bond requirement to where if they do leave and there's a lot of cleanup and mess, whether it's the DEQ or the OWRB or one of the other agencies that can pull that bond and help use that funds to try to help clean it up and get it back into circulation quicker and make it, a little bit better for our neighbors. And that's one of the things that's really been excited for me to get that done because it really does impact a lot of our rural farmers and ranchers.
Perfect. Can you kind of talk a little bit about some of the other priority bills that you've authored this session and kind of how they've progressed over time and what the future looks like?
Sure. So one of my favorite bills of this session is a food insecurity bill. It just got signed by the governor last week. It does allow restaurants, including school cafeterias, to donate food and be immune from civil liability as long as they know that they're giving. If they know that the food's bad, they would obviously not be immune. But it just encourages people. We have people that are dealing with food insecurity throughout the state. This would really it creates a bridge to put food that's otherwise perfectly fine on people's plates. And really, it's one of those things that passed unanimously on the House, unanimously in the Senate. The governor signed it right away. And it's something I'm really excited about because a lot of our members know that being a good neighbor is just part of our life, that Oklahoma standard we talk about all the time. And this is just, it was a perfect marriage of everything that we believe in and being able to help our neighbors, but also have some protection for those while they're trying to do it to make sure that there's not some unintended consequence for them. So it's probably the bill that I'm most excited about. There are several others I've been working on to get passed across, increasing the funding cap for tourism because our tourism budget in the state of Oklahoma is very small. It's actually smaller than the city of Dallas. And so trying to raise that up because we're doing really good. Our lieutenant governor has done a great job in really promoting the state, but we're kind of hamstrung on the funding for that. And so increasing that so we can really promote Oklahoma. We see our neighbors in Kansas and Missouri and some of the others really doing a great job of promoting, and we have a lot more to offer here in Oklahoma. So I want to make sure to get that message out. And so that's another important piece of legislation I've really been working on.
So one really unique bill that we're looking forward to seeing progress is the bill that originated from the idea of a student attendee at Capital Camp 2022, which is hosted by Farm Bureau. Can you kind of explain what that bill is and what it is doing as it's going through the legislative process?
I'd be glad to. So that bill has been dubbed the Orange Alert Bill. Just like we have Amber Alerts or Silver Alerts that we get on our phone, this Orange Alert Bill, which was the brainchild of Katie Edelin from Arapahoe Butler Public Schools, which is in Custer County. She came up with that at Capital Camp because her family went through a traumatic event where her aunt was actually abducted from two people that were escapees. And so what this bill does is you would get an alert if you're within a certain radius, I think 40 miles of a penitentiary where someone escaped, you would get an alert to say, just be aware that there's someone, toward you don't just open up your door because, especially living in, rural Oklahoma, we just open our door and expect somebody on the outside to be a neighbor. And so it just gives people a little assurance to be careful, be cautious, use caution while that's going on. And so Katie came up with that, and I'm really proud of her because she turned something that was a traumatic event for her family into something that's really going to be impactful for the entire state. That's another one of those bills that passed unanimously on both sides. The governor will have it on his desk here pretty quick, and I'm really excited to get that in. And I'm proud of Katie. I mean, just the leadership she's shown. I know personally how hard it is to draft legislation, even when you have good ideas, but for her to come up with a completely unique idea, to see that through. And then her grandmother gets a lot of credit because she said, have you seen this legislation that Katie came up with? And I said, no, I hadn't. And so she gave it to me. I said, this is great. Why is this not already a law? So we put it into law. And I'm hopeful the governor will sign that and we can really champion Katie and her idea. But regardless of the outcome, I'm just really proud of her. And it's another good reason that people should come to Capital Camp because you never know. You may come up with something that could turn into a law someday. And so I'm really proud of Farm Bureau for hosting that camp and really proud of Katie for what she's done on that.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Representative Moore, and thank all of you for watching this episode of Lincoln to Local.